everyone. My name is Jonathan. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ that didn't know really what I struggled with until I got to CR. See, my passion in life has always been music. I've gotten the opportunity to lead worship at a couple different churches for a small amount of time, and what that did for me was honestly embitter me. And I stepped out of music altogether. See, because I grew up, as the pastor had spoken about several weeks ago, I believe on a Wednesday night, surrounded by legalism. And I knew in my heart what I wanted to give and what God had created me for. But it wasn't accepted. It was too loud. It was too current. It was too old. The drums, the piano, too much guitar. It's just criticism everywhere. And I was pouring my heart out to God. And I said, this is what I want to do, but obviously there's another way. I wasn't qualified to lead worship because I didn't have a degree. Everywhere was rejection. So I decided to go to school. I was going to get my degree. Then I would be qualified. But God had other plans. And after one semester of school, for other reasons, I had to come back home. But I learned in that one semester that I didn't want to lead worship in a church. And even more confusing, I didn't want to perform music for anybody. What do? So I came home and I hid. I went to a small little church that didn't really have a music program. And I sat in the pew. I was fed well. But I couldn't do my passion. And I did that on purpose. One night I was invited to listen to some music that was going on at this thing called Celebrate Recovery. It had just started. And I came in and I sat where I usually sit on Sunday mornings here. And there was a freedom unlike I had known in the worship. When you get a bunch of hurting people together, surrounded by a bunch of people that have been freed, it's a party. Nobody cared about how loud it was, or what songs were being played, or who was or wasn't on stage. It was about glorifying God. Well, God revealed to me that night that he had a place for me on this stage. Shortly after, I was invited to sing in the play, and after 2 years of sitting on the sidelines, I sang and played, and I thought, this is great because I'm not leading. I don't want to lead. I'll just be a part of it. Well, 6 months later, the one who was leading decided that they were going to move. So Deborah came to me and said, would you lead it? And I got scared. I didn't want to. All those fears came back. Because I take it seriously. So I prayed about it. And I said, okay. And I came and I talked to the pastor with Deborah and a couple of the leaders. And what got me, what broke the legalism down, was the pastor. I sat in his office and I said, here's what I've done. Here's my resume. But I'm not a member of this church. I don't go to this church. Why would you want me to lead in your ministry? The pastor said, because it's not mine. See, I had been surrounded and grew up in churches where everything was mine. If they couldn't stamp their name on it, if somehow they couldn't project the church, it wasn't worth doing. That one statement broke the ground for me. And then came the big whammy. I'm not qualified because I smoke. I've been in bondage of that since I was 18 years old. And the pastor said, well, then this is the right ministry for you. So I stand here 2.5 years later, exactly where God has called me. And in doing so, in being surrounded by that freedom of Celebrate Recovery, God led me to this church. And I have enjoyed the freedom of this church that wasn't just found in Celebrate Recovery, but was in the lifestyle and the commitment of what this church is. And I got convicted because I hadn't gone through what we call a step study. I was a leader, but I hadn't really gone through the steps myself. But it wasn't for me, because I was just, even though I was up here leading, I didn't really have major issues. But I needed to go through the step study so that I could be qualified again to lead. Well, that was my downfall. I went through step study. And I realized that this thing that I had hid for years, see, when I was 8 years old, I was introduced to pornography. A lot of people are. A lot of men are. Nowadays, they say even more women. Something I had hid. Shame. See, but I grew up in a society where that was normal. Oh, that's just part of growing up. Well, during my teen years, I was in bondage to it. And I knew that when I got married, I wouldn't have this problem anymore. Wrong. Satan doesn't leave you alone when you get married. So I brought it into the marriage. But it wasn't as bad as it had been. It was manageable. So I thought. So when I went through the step study, it's like, okay, God, what do you want me to focus on? I'm a smoker. God, I want to quit smoking. I'm going to quit smoking. I'm going to go through this step study, and you're going to help me quit. Well, shortly through it, he said, Jonathan, I'm not concerned about that right now. What I'm concerned about is you're still in bondage to pornography. You think you got it handled. You think it's not as bad as it was, but it's still there. Do you want to be free of it completely? Well, step study takes about 9 months to go through. And I fought with that for about 6 of them. God, let's get back to smoking. Toward the latter end of the step study, the light bulb came on, and God revealed to me that the pornography in my life was a symptom of the issue. See, pornography's everywhere. It was too much for me to handle. I can't not go outside. I can't not turn on the TV. I guess I could, but I couldn't. I needed the computer. I needed all these things. There were too many excuses for me. But he revealed to me that was the symptom. The real problem I had was deception. I had allowed deception in my life. I had allowed deception in my marriage. I was deceiving myself, and I was even trying to deceive God. Deception, I could fight that. For the next 3 months, I fought deception. And at the end of step study, I walked out a pure man. But remember, that's not for me. I got it under control. That's for the drug addicts and the alcoholics. That's not for me. It was. And I gained freedom. And that's been 1.5 years ago. And what I thought was a little bit, and I could manage, has turned to purity in my life, purity in my marriage. And I've regained the honor and respect for my wife. Thanks for letting me share.